Well, hey guys, welcome to Star Wars on High. Thank you for stopping by. We are back, and today is a very fun day. It is the 1,000 subscriber thank you video, and I can't believe we're here. For the folks who started off on this channel, remember me just all gray walls behind me, empty, with just a webcam, and I'm just some guy talking about Star Wars books and news, and you guys stuck around. You liked the videos, you shared the videos, you've interacted with us on Thursday nights. It is absolutely crazy that a little over a year now, we have hit 1,000 subscribers. And we just got to say thank you. It doesn't seem like a big number. You know, there's huge channels out there with big communities, but I think we've been able to grow just an awesome little community here. And I can't wait to see what's next. We have some really fun things planned on the horizon, but for now, we just got to stop and thank you guys. Without you, it's just me making videos with Jimmy, talking to no one. So it's really cool to see how much you guys have loved the videos, how much you love to interact with the channel, and it means a lot.
You know, Josh pretty much hit the nail right on the head. It is truly surreal to be sitting here at 1,000 subscribers. I've been on YouTube since 2016. I've run 5 to 6 different channels in the past, and I'm surprised that it took me this long to realize that Star Wars is the one thing I should have been talking about this whole time. You know, had I known, I'd have done this years ago. But I'm forever going to be thankful that Josh decided to call me one day and say, hey, I think we should merge together and share my channel between myself and you, and just grow this channel and create our own community. And you know, that's one of the best calls I ever had, because since I started in January working with Star Wars on High, the channel has just gone upwards, and it's only going to go higher, and it's truly just incredible. And I just want to thank all of you so much for the support and the love, and you know, actually giving us feedback. It just means a lot.
So we thought a really fun way to celebrate 1,000 subscribers would be to just talk about our favorite moment from each Star Wars movie. And we didn't talk about this before, so I recorded my favorites and Jimmy recorded his. So there might be some overlap. We might have some of the same scenes. I expect we'll have some differences. But what were yours? As we go through the video, let us know down below. What was your favorite moment from each Star Wars movie? I think this is really great to do. Just go back, rethink about some of your favorite movies of all time. What were those best moments for you? And some have changed. I know over time my favorite moments have changed. I'm sure they have for you. But I can't wait to see where this landed. So again, thank you guys so much for all the support. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you tell us what your favorite Star Wars moments are. And we're going to go through this in chronological order. So without further ado, let's get rolling with episode 1. All right, so Phantom Menace. Let's get it rolling here. This is going to be probably the most obvious choice, maybe the most cliche choice of the list. But I absolutely love the Duel of the Fates scene. It's one of the best fight scenes in all of the Star Wars movies. And what's crazy about this scene is the choreography is great, the music is phenomenal, we know all of that. But the scene has more and more meaning the more you dive into the prequel era. As you see what happens in Attack of the Clones, in Revenge of the Sith, and of course the Clone Wars show, that duel means so much more for the fate of the galaxy. We've heard Dave Filoni talk about this with Duel of the Fates, why it's called Duel of the Fates. It's because Anakin's fate was really decided in that moment. With Qui-Gon Jinn falling to Maul, that would have probably been the best master for Anakin and would have probably given him a more loving, fostering relationship, which hopefully could have kept him from turning to the dark side, but that was not the case. And so that scene has such a huge impact on Star Wars as a whole, and it's also one of the best fight scenes there is. Pretty easy pick for me.
But going into the Phantom Menace, my favorite scene since the first time I ever saw it was definitely the introduction of Darth Maul. Not kind of like the secret ways we saw him in the hologram or on the fight on Tatooine. It's the true time we see him in all his glory there on Naboo, right when the Duel of Fate starts. And it's not necessarily the fight that's my favorite, but it's when he ignites his lightsaber. You know, as a kid, when I first saw this movie, I was excited by the lightsabers. I thought they were so cool and it was mesmerizing, but I was never expecting a double-bladed lightsaber. So, you know, when we saw the fight earlier, he only had one blade out. So then when he pulls it out, holds it right in front of him, and then you see 2 blades come out, 4-year-old me lost his mind. He thought it was the coolest thing ever, and to this day, it's still my favorite scene.
Attack of the Clones. One of my first Star Wars theater experiences. I really loved Attack of the Clones when I was young, and I have a very soft spot for Obi-Wan versus Jango Fett. First of all, Camino is just an amazing planet. So being outdoors in the rain with the lightning, as we have Slave One in the background, Boba Fett there, it is just an amazing scene. And I absolutely love the fact that Jango Fett kind of held his own. So we have Obi-Wan challenged, doesn't easily dismiss this threat. It's a really great scene. And of course, the chase that follows it with the famous seismic charge noise. One of my favorite scenes in the movie. There was a couple of options here, but I gotta pick the really cool battle in the rain.
You know, Attack of the Clones is a tricky one. Not a lot of people like it. It is very split on the fan base on whether you really love this movie or really hate this movie. I personally love it because of the use of color and saturation in a lot of the scenes. I mean, from beginning to end, the movie is absolutely gorgeous with its use of color, and that's why my favorite scene is the bounty hunter chase through Coruscant, because it's just stunning. You get to see all these vibrant colors, especially from the speeders they're using in the chase, but we get to see all these neon signs and lights and the city life of the nighttime of Coruscant, and it instantly made me just love the planet even more, because when we saw Coruscant in The Phantom Menace, it was great, but it was nothing compared to the scope that we got with Attack of the Clones, and it's just amazing.
So for Revenge of the Sith, this was absolutely the hardest choice because it's my favorite Star Wars movie, and I could have picked so many different scenes. And this answer might change depending on the day, the week, the month. But for today's purposes, I'm going to go with Padmé's rumination. It is the scene where Padme and Anakin look at each other longingly from across Coruscant. And the reason I love that moment so much is it feels like the ultimate tipping point. With the music, you hear this underlying chaos. You know Anakin is on the edge of going over and making the wrong decision that eventually leads to the destruction of the galaxy as we know it and all of the heartbreak that comes with it. But you watch it and you just hope it's not going to happen. You just want him to do the right thing. You want this couple to end up together. And the moment to me is so sad. It's so heartbreaking. It is the kind of last moment of bond between them before things take a turn for the worst. And with the context of the Clone Wars show, it even enhances this even more. I watched it cut together, the Clone Wars final season, with the Revenge of the Sith, and the way that scene flows there is so powerful. I absolutely love this movie. It was very hard to pick one, but I really love that moment.
Revenge of the Sith is arguably one of the best Star Wars films if you grew up with the prequels like I did, and my favorite scene from that is definitely the creation of Darth Vader. But not when he pledges himself to Palpatine in his office. No, I'm talking about when the helmet comes down and we hear that breathing for the first time, letting us know that the story has come full circle and Darth Vader has been created. Every time that helmet closes, you hear that breath, and it just gives me chills every time.
So let's go with Solo. This is kind of a tricky one. I actually luckily rewatched this movie recently to kind of get myself up to speed. This might be silly, but I absolutely love the Darth Maul scene with Kiara. I think it's just cool to see Darth Maul back in live action. It was just like, yay, finally, right? We've seen him in the Clone Wars. It was really cool to get that payoff. But beyond that, I actually really liked the fact that Kiara made that decision to kind of seize power and take her shot with Crimson Dawn. It really fit the theme of that movie and the hard lessons that Han was learning about who not to trust and who to deal with. There were so many of those moments here, and in the end, the character that he had known from the beginning, who he had loved and who he had tried to escape with, she chooses power over him, and I think that was a really kind of cool scene. And of course, it has Darth Maul. It's fantastic.
Solo will forever be one of my favorite movies. It's just so much fun to watch, and no matter how many times I watch it, I never get tired of my favorite scene, which is the chase in the Kessel Run. You know, you've got Han piloting the Millennium Falcon through this cluster of asteroids, you've got TIE fighters coming after him, but the coolest scene is when he wants to show off a trick that he learned from his buddy Needles and decides to drift the Millennium Falcon. Like, no one had ever done that before. Han was the first person to drift in the Millennium Falcon, and in doing so, got rid of a TIE pilot and went on his way. With or without landing gear, he still made it happen.
So for Rogue One, I mean, again, I feel almost guilty saying it, but the Vader hallway scene is one of the coolest moments in live action. I remember in theaters, just the tension in the room, just the music, the moment on screen was one of the coolest Star Wars moments that we've been able to see. And so while it doesn't have some of the maybe depth and character development that some of these other scenes have, it was just so much fun watching him go down the hallway, be the Darth Vader we've always wanted to see. Like, I can't help it. I love that scene.
So in Rogue One, my favorite scene has changed a lot over the years, but the more I think about it, the more I'm still drawn to space battles. I grew up playing Rogue Squadron on the Nintendo 64. I played through Squadrons when that came out. I just love flying. So the assault on the shield gate above Scarif is my favorite scene. I just think it's well put together using old footage from A New Hope with Red Leader and Gold Leader talking about focusing their attack on the shield gate, just repurposing that footage to fit in with the story of Rogue One. It's just a perfect use of resources, and it's just so polished and clean.
Now we move to A New Hope. And this was always challenging for me because with the original trilogy, I remember growing up with these films and not really understanding all of what was going on, right? You have so much more appreciation for certain moments now than I did when I first saw them when I was a lot younger. It has to be, for me, the Vader versus Obi-Wan fight. Now, even though it is not this epic finale that we've seen fans recreate, just what that moment means for the prequel era fan that I am, to know what was at stake there, what that meeting was, what that conclusion was. It's very powerful. And I love that about Star Wars, that some of these scenes that don't appear to be a big deal on the first watch, once you have the context of the Clone Wars, once you have a context of the prequels, it means so much more. Now, what will Kenobi do with this scene? What will it maybe change about this moment? We'll have to see, but it's an iconic moment. It's my favorite part of New Hope.
And you know, when you get into the classics, the original trilogy, there's too many good scenes. It's really hard to pick. But for me, with A New Hope, my favorite scene is meeting the Millennium Falcon for the first time. Not necessarily the characters, but the ship itself, because there are just so many cool memories that you get with it. From Luke calling it a piece of junk, to seeing the cockpit for the first time, the hollow chessboard, the cannons on both sides of the ship. It's just so cool, and so much happens throughout the rest of the story, through canon and in Legends. The Millennium Falcon has such an important role in the story. So, you know, just seeing the Millennium Falcon for the first time, it's just jaw-dropping, just seeing everything that's in the ship and how far the story of this ship was going to go.
The Empire Strikes Back, one of the most iconic movies of all time. And unfortunately, I'm going to be boring here and pick probably the most cliche choice, but the fight between Luke and Vader has to be top of the list. It's one of the most iconic scenes of all time in any movie ever. The I am your father moment is one of the biggest twists, one of the biggest pop culture references that there has ever been. And I remember watching that for the first time when I was a kid and understanding that impact, that what? How could that be? That was such a crazy moment, one of the first films to ever really do that, and so it has to be recognized. It's, first of all, it's even better now that you understand the full context of the prequels. It enhances that scene, but in the moment, it was truly like, catch your breath, catch you off guard. Love that scene, even though it might not be that special of a pick.
Moving to arguably the best Star Wars movie ever made, Empire Strikes Back, we get into my favorite scene, which of course I gotta stick with the theme of space battles, and that is because in this movie we get a look at one of my favorite ships of all time, the Super Star Destroyer. When I first saw this movie, you see all these Star Destroyers coming in, you're like, alright, the Empire's here, we're ready to fight, and then the shadow creeps over all of them, and we see these big red glowing engines, and right in front of us is a Super Star Destroyer, the Executor or the Executor, depending on how you want to pronounce it. But it was just so cool for me, just seeing bigger versions of the same ship. As a kid, that's awesome. That's all you want. They made a Lego version of it, and I still want that. So seeing the Super Star Destroyer for the first time, boom, all-time favorite scene, one of my favorite ships, and that will never change.
So for Return of the Jedi, I'm gonna have to go with Luke's entry into the film, showing up with black cloaks, this new saber. It kind of hints that maybe he's gotten a little darker, right? We found out his father was Darth Vader. Is there something going on here? He seems more commanding, more in control, has more of a presence on screen. I love the fact that we feel some growth from when we saw him last. Overall, from a visual perspective, from just a tonal perspective, it kind of reintroduces us, gets us kicked off the movie really well. Absolutely love that scene, just looks phenomenal.
So my favorite scene in Return of the Jedi would not be my favorite scene if it wasn't remade. Now, of course, when I first saw Return of the Jedi as a kid, I saw one of the special editions. I never saw the original cut of the film until much later. The original ending song, the Ewok Celebration, Yub Nub, it's weird. I'm not a big fan of it. And I didn't hear that until much later, and I was really confused as to what it was, because I grew up with the Victory Celebration remake that they had at the end of the movie. And I personally think it's the better song choice, and it's better fitting for my favorite moment, which is the end of Return of the Jedi. Not because the movie's over, but because of the way the music matches with the scene. It's just this big, powerful, swelling moment of victory. They finally did. Our heroes beat the Empire. The galaxy is saved. They can finally rejoice, celebrate, and relax. And the music is just a perfect interpretation of how they feel. And the last few measures of the music just fit perfectly with the end as they're all on camera celebrating their victory against the Empire.
All right, for The Force Awakens, a movie I actually really liked when it came to theaters. Was just really excited to be back in Star Wars. Thought it had a great cast, had a really exciting kind of plot points I couldn't wait to explore. And I love the ending. It's going to be the fight scene between Rey, Finn, and Kylo Ren. The battle in the snow. It was so unrefined. I love that it was just kind of hacking and slashing. Rey and Finn hadn't really been trained, and Kylo's been shot. He just murdered his father. So they're just kind of brutally slashing and fighting. Ends with the crack in the ground with the two, Rey and Kylo, across from each other. That was a really great scene. Didn't love how the rest of the trilogy really went, but I really liked The Force Awakens, and I thought that moment was really, really well done.
Now, I was highly anticipating The Force Awakens when it was first announced, and it's still to this day, I really love watching that movie. My favorite scene, of course, I gotta stick with space battles, you already know this, but the fight with Starkiller Base. But it's not because of the fight, but it's the way it was filmed. It's just nuts. We just get so many cool shots. You've got POVs from the X-Wing cockpits when they're swerving around, you got missiles flying past them. You get cool side views from the underside of the S-foils as the ship is moving in on the oscillator. And you just get these really cool shots of the cannons on the surface of Starkiller Base. The camera's focused on the sun in the background, and then it zooms out to see a cannon fire at an X-Wing. You got snow blasting off the back of missile launchers. It's just done so well, and it just catches my attention every time. I wish every Star Wars film had these kind of effects.
So for The Last Jedi, I'm going to pick the throne room scene. I understand that's probably the easy pick, and also I know folks have broken that scene down and showed all the kind of inconsistencies in the fighting. I don't really care about all of that. I loved that scene in the moment because it opened up all sorts of possibilities. I remember seeing that real time and thinking, okay, they can go so many ways with this character. I can't believe they took out Snoke. What's happening here? Are they going to team up? And even though I don't love eventually how those characters went and the payoff was lame, that scene was really crazy in theaters and it was really exciting to watch. Holdo Maneuver is also really cool from just a visual perspective. It's one of the coolest shots in Star Wars. Had a really great big screen feel to it, but I got to go with the throne room.
So The Last Jedi is a tough one for a lot of people. I love this movie. My favorite scene is the end, Luke's final moments. And this is a really hard one to pick, but it's the thing is that, I grew up watching Luke Skywalker. Mark Hamill will forever be my hero. And knowing that he chose to sacrifice his life to project himself across the galaxy to save the Resistance without having to kill anybody, that is what a true Jedi is. Stopping the entire First Order. He even says at the beginning of the movie, what do you think I'm going to do? Walk out with a laser sword and take on the entire First Order? And that's exactly what he does. Does not bring harm to anyone, simply acts as a distraction to let them escape, which is the perfect representation of the Jedi way.
All right, for The Rise of Skywalker, the final film in the Skywalker saga, not my favorite movie, had some ups and downs, and I'm going to stick with very much a visual moment. I really liked the giant Force lightning scene with Palpatine. Now, I know, it didn't destroy any ships, which was kind of lame, but just from a visual perspective, all those Sith cultists and just this really powerful dark side lightning zapping all the ships, I thought was a really cool visual because the shot was really pretty. I love the dark side. I think it's so interesting, and to see this kind of huge display of that power was really, really cool. Now, again, I wish it would have destroyed some ships, but at least it looked really badass.
Finally, on to the last movie, The Rise of Skywalker. You either love it or you hate it, or maybe you just find it okay. But my favorite scene is watching Rey go through the remains of the Death Star 2. And the parallels are just awesome. When we first meet Rey, she's going through the remains of a Star Destroyer on Jakku, and now she's rummaging through the Death Star 2. Something that we never expected to happen. And it's so eerie and so creepy. I mean, there's TIE fighters everywhere. You can even see Lambda shuttles and the empty Stormtrooper buckets. That's what really gives me this scene. So, seeing all this stuff still intact, and we expected the Death Star 2 to be nothing but just space dust, it's just so creepy that it's as if, this stuff was so evil that an actual explosion just couldn't get rid of it, and it just sits there. The same with the throne room. You expected it to be gone, but the fact that it just, this source of evil remained and kept so much of it intact just for her to find.
So those were some of our favorite moments from Star Wars. What were yours? Let us know down below. Who was wrong? Was it me? Was it Jimmy? Was there some you totally disagree with? I would love to know.
And again, I gotta say thank you all so much for hanging around with us and getting us to 1,000 subs. It's only gonna go up from here, and I'm just so excited to see what comes next.
Again, guys, thank you so much for the subscribers and the support. Cannot wait for what comes next for the channel. We are just getting started, but we have to stop and just say thank you for where we are right now. Until next time, guys, we'll see you again very soon.